Hi everybody, I'm Mr. Wood, and this is my bassoon. To give you perspective as to how big the bassoon is, I'm 6'2". I shrank. I was 6'3", but I'm, getting old. So if I stand back here, it's about 4 feet tall at least, this instrument. So it's a big instrument. So helps to be of larger stature to play this, but I've had plenty of students that are under 5 feet that have actually played the bassoon quite well. You have to really want to play the bassoon, just like any other instrument, and you have to practice. So, first things first, this is the reed. It's made of rhododendron, which is cane. It's not bamboo. It actually grows in the riverbeds here and stuff, especially in Ventura. That's the tube of the reed. You can see through it. That's the tip opening there. I make these reeds. Has 3 wires and some glue. Usually it uses string, but I'm too lazy to make string. So, the reed crows in and of itself, it really is an instrument. It takes a lot of time to make them, but you don't have to do that. You're going to buy them. It goes on to the Bocal, which is this thing here, which is basically part of the mouthpiece. It has a lower sound because the airstream's longer, and then I put it in the bell and in the bassoon. And this is going into what's called the wing joint, which is this joint here. And then it goes down here to the boot joint, which is a U-turn for the air. I'll show you this later when I take it apart. It goes up the long joint, which is this big long joint. And then this is the bell. Here, let me show you the bell. The bell has one key. That's going to be the low B flat, which I'll be playing in just a second. I'm going to play a 3-octave B flat scale. Goes up to one of the highest notes you're ever going to play in the bassoon. You rarely play it. That's 1 octave. I'm going up chromatically, which is 12 notes. High F came out today. That's great. That's 3.5 octaves. That's no easy feat. This is a decent reed if it's getting the high F out, and then so that's a real piece of music that starts on the second to the lowest note on the bassoon. That's a B natural. I started on a B flat, but this is a decent reed if that low B flat's coming out like that on the high F, so that's good. That's written by Serge Prokofiev, and that's from Peter and the Wolf, and that is the character, that is the musical theme that depicts the character that is the grandfather, he doesn't want Peter to go out and hunt the wolf. So that's the low range. Here's a higher range note, solo. That's a piece written in 1913 by Igor Stravinsky from a ballet called The Rite of Spring. And I'm sure if you were the first principal bassoon player on that gig and got that on your stand, you were going, what the heck? Because that's pretty unusual to have written something like that. But there you go. A mid-range solo, which is lyrical. That was a lyrical. I just played a lyrical solo, the last one, like lyrical, like singing. The first one's kind of more raucous and not comical, but kind of angry, the grandfather. Another less lyrical solo is from Fantasia, but this wasn't for Fantasia. This is by Paul Dukas. It's from The Sorcerer's Apprentice. So that's the original piece, but Mr. Disney used this in the movie Fantasia. When Mickey's playing with the broom and the broom turns into, I don't know, whatever it turns into. I've actually never seen the movie. I need to see it. So that depicts like kind of staccato tonguing with the bassoon. The bassoon has a lot of colors in terms of the sound and the sounds it can make, but also the way you articulate the note. That's bad double tonguing. Let's see. Let's do another lyrical solo, which is sort of in the tenor range. The tenor means the vocal, it's imitating the vocal range of like a male singer, a tenor. Very famous solo. That's from Tchaikovsky's Fourth Symphony. Check it out. Let's see. Mozart wrote us our first really serious concerto in 1777. Maybe it was 75. Anybody know what was going on here around that time? Get back to me on that. Wow, I haven't practiced that in a while, and this is always on auditions, and I would have gotten eliminated in the first round playing it like that, but it was okay for today. Anyway, that's the bassoon. It has a really long, big range. You're probably not going to play much above at this point. In the first year or two, you get up to maybe a high F, and that's good enough. The bassoon takes dedication. You have to hear well. You have to be able to create your sound inside your body. The air you produce through this thing and this thing and this thing is very important. Keeping your air focused. The way I'm forming my mouth now is called the embouchure. That's bassoon embouchure. It's a smaller opening, focused air. You've got to really have a lot of air to play this thing well. It's 99% air, 0.8% the reed, and 0.2% the bassoon. So that being said, you got to deal with this thing, and this is a whole other kettle of fish. It's a reed, and you have to buy them. So now I'm going to put it in the case. So take it apart and put it in the case. First things first is first I should put my reed in a case, even though I keep them on my desk when I'm working on them. But just to show you, I have a reed case. I'm going to put it in the case. I got this from a student, one of my first students at Anacapa Middle School in 2005. Anyway, here's the Bocal. You have to blow through it to get the condensation out. There's a little pin thing here that the whisper key goes on. I'll talk about that if you take lessons. This goes in a little thing. It's a little holster. Here's the bell. This is the B flat note that came out. And the sound from the B flat actually comes out of this, but every other sound, when I'm mic'd in the studios in Hollywood, they put the mic pretty much up here because it all kind of comes out here. So it all doesn't come out of here. So this goes here, goes in the case. I've actually been sitting on a seat strap the whole time, which is what holds it up. There's a hook on the bottom. There's a hole here. The hook goes in there. Here's the long joint. Lays in the case, and I'll show you the case in a bit. Here's the wing joint, which is there. It's all hollow. It's got a bore. I don't know if you can see through that. No. Anyway, here is. It's very important to keep the bassoon clean and get the condensation out. So I have a swab with a chain. It's a felt swab. It goes down the big side of the wing joint. You don't want to put it through the small side. You want to put it through the big side, the bottom. It goes all the way through, and that's kind of slightly wet actually with my condensation. It's not called spit. It's condensation because my regular body heat's around 98.6, but it's about 70 degrees in this room, 65. So it makes sense that my hot air is going to mix with this cold air, and it's going to make condensation. So now this is the boot joint, and there's a big hole and a small hole. This is lined with brass. This is wood. You don't want the wood to get wet. It can rot. So put the chain through there. This is the trickiest part, kind of making sure it goes through the U-turn. And that's what beginning students have a challenge with. So Also, the first lesson is basically taking it apart. Putting it together and taking it apart, putting it back in the case. So we put our strap back in the case. And I'm going to show you, pick up my computer with the camera and show you how it looks in my fancy handy dandy case. This is a great case. It fits very well on the airplane. So I'm sorry I can't do questions and answers here, but I'm gonna do questions and answers myself. So, Mr. Wood, when did you start playing the bassoon? I started playing the bassoon when I was 13 in 7th grade, and I had started on the saxophone for a year and a half. Why did you choose the bassoon? Everybody asks that. I chose the bassoon because of the way it looked, and I liked the way it sounded, and it was unusual and kind of cool. I also was playing in band, and my sister played the bassoon too, and she was playing in the youth orchestra where we lived, Minneapolis, Minnesota, the Twin Cities. And I wanted to play an orchestra. I like band. I like my friends in band, but I was playing the saxophone. You're not going to play regularly in an orchestra if you play sax. So that's one reason why I switched, because I wanted to play in an orchestra eventually. I didn't play an orchestra in school, regular school, till I was in 9th grade. But in 8th grade, a year after, 6 months after I switched, I was playing in a youth orchestra downtown Minneapolis. So that was really, really cool for me. I liked the way it looked. I liked the reed. Thought the reed was cool. The reed's kind of a pain in the butt, but you got to deal with it. Every instrument has its challenges, and that is probably the biggest challenge of the bassoon. But once you can deal with that, you're fine. You have to want to do this. You have to work hard. Every instrument requires a lot of practice. This one especially so. Aren't a lot of quick rewards right off the bat, but if you stick with it, I guarantee you'll enjoy it. I think that's about it, and I look forward to meeting you. Thank you.